I'd also like you to note that this is the utility yard where we are today. This is where all of our water, sewer, storm drain crews are based out of, as well as our GIS, water quality, water conservation. That's all here. Also, we have the main corporate yard off Gothard. If anybody has gone to get sandbags during the winter or anything like that. Been to both locations. That's where we have our general services, our inspection, our maintenance operations, signals and lighting operations are housed. In addition, that is where we do the material storage. Again, talked about the sandbags in the winter, and also fuel storage and fleet maintenance is there. And we also have another yard called the Park, Tree, and Landscape Yard, which is also off Gothard. That is just south of Slater, and that is where all the staff and equipment for all the park maintenance that we do, the tree trimming, all the mowing, everything else that we do. And we have one last yard, which is there is actually a beach maintenance yard. Most of you may not know where it is. So that's on Newland, right behind the AES power plant. And that's where all the beach services is. They maintain all their beach equipment, all the stuff that sifts the sand and all those things that happen down there at the beach. That's where all that's housed. And then I wanted to tell you this a little bit about the management org chart in Public Works. Again, our big cheese right there, Travis Hawkins, is on vacation. So I'm taking over for him tonight. He is our Director of Public Works. To your left over there is Ken Dills. He is our Administration Manager. He's sitting right here. And below them, Denny Operations. I'm Denny today too, on the lower left. Our General Services Manager, Jerry Thompson, sitting over there. Right next to him is Bob Stahowski, our Transportation Manager. You got me right next to Bob, City Engineer. And then to my left here is Brian. He's our Utilities Manager. And then this is just a picture of our Public Works staff. There was 200 of them. And we all took a picture in front of our new senior center. And just so you know, Public Works Department managed the contract to build it. So just another one of the things we do in Public Works. So Public Works is the foundation for our operations and maintenance, right, of all the infrastructure which we have in the city. We have everything from street signs to our public facilities, our refuse, medians. We actually manage the construction, street repairs, tree maintenance. We got sewer, storm drain. We have it all. There's a lot of other cities in the county, like Irvine and others. They don't have water. They have an agency called IRWD that handles their water. We do it all. There's nothing that we don't do here in the city other than we don't treat our own sewage. We get to the sand district, but we don't treat it. So what Public Works does, in a broad nutshell, is we do all the infrastructure planning, construction management, operations and maintenance of the city, which involves we select and manage consultants and contractors, develop solutions or design concepts. We prepare RFPs for design and bids for construction. We also review development plans and entitlements. All those people that come through with a single-family residential room addition, everything to Bellaterra, to wonderful stuff going down at the beach. We develop and maintain our infrastructure. We develop the required budgets and funding. We also coordinate and manage outside agency utility work. You see Edison in here, Time Warner, Verizon. They all come through us for permits and we manage them. We also control and safeguard the city's right-of-way. We manage all the construction and inspection, as I mentioned earlier. Jerry gets the fun of maintaining the entire fleet of vehicles. So we do all that here also. We control costs, we pay the bills. We maintain all the facilities and infrastructure. And we also do a lot of construction notification. In addition, we do a lot of public relations and outreach like we do tonight. Whenever we have large construction projects, we always do a little bit of public outreach to the community, let them know when it's going to happen, how long it's going to take, and how much they'll be inconvenienced. And also we respond to a lot of Surf City pipeline requests. How many show of hands in here? How many people actually use the request app? It's a great way to notify us of things that interest you. Anything from, trimming on the, tree trimming to you name it. You just put it in the Surf City pipeline and we'll respond to you. I'd also like to note that City of Huntington Beach is not your typical infrastructure. We do have an ocean, we have a beach. And things like the pier, and this is the opening of the pier way back when, before Ruby's got put on it, we also maintain and manage that. It may be a good rule to not fix something that isn't broken, but with infrastructure, the lack of preventative maintenance is an expensive and sometimes dangerous tactic, and we call it deferred maintenance. And the results from too few dollars spread among too many competing interests. So therefore, what we do is we prioritize and strategize everything we do in public works, which leads into how do we plan how we manage the city. We use planning documents such as the general plan and circulation element. It tells us what streets we have in the city, how we manage all that. We have a bicycle master plan. We do a lot of traffic signal modernization and rehabilitation. We plan all that out. We have a pavement management program. I have boards back there where Tony's standing that tells you going out 7 years where we're going to be within the city and how we plan to manage all the arterial rehabs, as well as we'll talk a little bit later about the zone maintenance. In addition, we have a facilities maintenance plan that Jerry gets to take care of. We also have a water master plan. You know, we have, most of the city was built in the 50s and 60s and 70s. So guess what? We're about 50 years old on a lot of that infrastructure. So we use the water master plan, sewer master plan, and the drainage and water quality master plan to guide us how we move forward, looking at the asset, right? You know, the pipes in your house, right? A lot of you had to redo them with copper or line them. Same thing with the city. Once they hit about a certain age, 40 or 50 years old, we have to plan, because we don't have all the money at once to do it. So we have to plan how we spend our money, and it's like a 20 to 30 year plan how we do that maintenance. And another thing that we do is emergency response. Public Works is available 24/7, 365 to handle things such as traffic signal outages. We get hazardous material spills within the city. We also get water line breaks, not like LA, they're small, you don't see the sinkholes. We also deal with storm drains and channels, during when the floods happen. Sometimes we have to respond to issues with clogged drains and things of that nature. 24/7, 365, we're there. Sanitary sewer lines and lift stations, and also just street tree damage, right? We had some big rains this last year. We had a lot of downed trees. Our guys were out there instantaneously with contract crews and our crews to help pick those up, get them off the streets, and keep the city safe. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ken Dills, who heads up our Administration and Finance Division.
The exciting stuff now.
By the way, it's all about the money.
Yeah. Municipal accounting, it's like cliff diving, hang gliding, municipal accounting. It's exciting stuff. Anyway, just a brief overview of our budget is what I'm going to discuss, and this is our 16-17 current fiscal year. We have $104.2 million roughly as our public works budget for the year. Of that amount, over half is actually with Brian right here with the water utility and the sewer utility. So when it comes down to it, we get about somewhere around 25 million for public works to do what we do in terms of keeping infrastructure around, keeping upkept rather, for the parks, the streets, and all that. That amounts to about 12% of the total general fund that we get, that the city gets. The general fund is basically your property tax, TOT, all the fees and stuff. It's also the least restrictive of the funds we deal with. Government accounting is basically fund accounting. It's different pots of money, and most of them are very restrictive in what you can use that money for. The general fund is a little less so. We can buy police cars with it, we can fix roads with it, we can buy volleyballs for one of the rec centers. So it's the least restrictive of the funds. And a good way to illustrate that, if I'm doing this right, is looking at our current CIP. It gives you an idea of how all the projects are funded. There's the general fund and the infrastructure fund. The infrastructure fund is an interesting one. It's the only revenue that goes into that is from the general fund. There's a city policy that if there are excess revenues in the general fund, which doesn't always happen, they split them up between a couple different kinds of reserves and the infrastructure fund. The beauty of it from the public works standpoint is when that money gets transferred to the infrastructure fund, it is now dedicated for infrastructure, which is what we do. We can't buy police cars with it, we can't buy fire trucks with it, even though those are way cooler. But anyway, that funds quite a bit of our stuff when the extra revenue is there. We have grants and other funds. That includes impact funds, development impact funds. Gas tax and Measure M is a good chunk. And again, the enterprise funds, that's our sewer and water funds that keep the sewer and water utilities going. Just a little bit about more of the funds, and like I said, this is going to be brief. Our state gas tax, we bring in about $4 million a year, and that's a restricted fund. And as you can guess, it's basically everything within the right-of-way. It's the pavement, the curb, sidewalks in some cases that we can use those funds for, but that's it. We can't, for instance, go into the Denny's parks and plant trees with it, or do any kind of maintenance on the beach. It's strictly for roads and bridges and such. Like I said, we get about $4 million from those funds a year, and we're real excited actually. In 17-18, we've got, I don't know if y'all heard about SB1, but it introduced a new tax on the gas, which will provide next year us with an extra $1 million. Down the line, it looks like it'll be about $3 million. So it may hurt at the gas pump, but at least the road, when you're getting there, will be nicer, because it'll give us that much more money to do what we do, and maybe bring up our pavement index a little more. Another one that is kind of restricted to roads, bridges, and that type of thing is Measure M. That's managed by OCTA, Orange County Transportation Authority. It's a sales tax that we all pay every time we go out and do whatever we do, and we get about $3.3 million a year for that. And we have to report back to OCTA, for instance, to tell you how restrictive it is, let them know exactly what we spent it on, where it was spent, which pieces of road, and all that type of thing. The sewer and water rates, like I said, is over half of our budget, and a lot of it is operating. It's a big operation, it takes a lot of money. For instance, just purchasing water to put in your pipes is what, $16 million. And it's a big chunk. So, and that's paid for basically when you pay your water bill. That's where it goes. It goes to keep up those systems, goes to keep up this yard, it goes to keep up the equipment that keeps everything flowing like it should. Grants is another really huge part of what we do. Grants tend to be, they're usually specific to a project. And we've been very successful in getting grants. We're always looking for them. We're always applying for them. And when the funds are there, we try to get them so it can help what we do. And also there's the impact funds. We have three we deal with. It's traffic impact that Bob may mention later. We have a sewer development fee, and we have a drainage fee. And again, those are all restrictive. We can't use the sewer development fee to, say, do a storm drain. We can't do traffic impact to just pave some streets. Traffic impact is usually traffic, transportation-related signal type of things. Lastly, the general fund. We do get a chunk of general fund to do projects. It's not that much. It's $3.6 million this year. It's limited. There's only so much we can get. Usually, I can't remember what it was this year, Tom, but I think it was about $9 million worth of requests for general fund projects, and we were only able to fund about 3.6. So that really kind of wraps up what I was going to talk about. Like I said, I know it's exciting. We had a pavement blue ribbon committee a couple of years ago that discussed as a possible way to get roads done that we would look at street assessment districts. That kind of got shot down by that committee. They decided it just wasn't feasible for Huntington Beach, and then also that our pavement condition index in comparison to other cities was not that bad. So they didn't think that would fly, and it's kind of a dead issue, at least for now.
Maintenance operations, all the maintenance that goes on after the CIP. The CIP rebuilds the roads, so what do we do in the interim? We maintain them. So the maintenance operations division, which is Denny Bacon's division, and we have Derek Livermore in the back, who's up with streets, and he's here tonight to help answer any questions later. What they do is they oversee landscape maintenance of all our parks, medians, and facilities. You know, the city has 71 parks. It's a staggering number if you really put that into perspective. And it includes Central Park and the Sports Complex and 25 city-owned facilities and over 500 landscape medians and cutouts. They also oversee tree maintenance of over 50,000 trees within the city. This includes the tree trimming, the removals, planting, and emergency services. Remember, I talked about tree falls over, we got to be out there even though nobody hears it, because is there somebody, it doesn't really fall if you hear it? No, just kidding. And they also oversee street maintenance with over 315 centerline miles of residential pavement. I'll talk a little bit about that later. And they also are in charge of the street sweeping and hazardous materials. You know, we get spills of oil and things of that nature. We got a real rich history of petroleum in the city. And guess what? There's a couple areas in the city where it actually still burps up out of the ground a little bit, and in front of people's houses, so we get to play with that a little bit. And here's just some statistics for everyone. We have 3.4 million square feet of landscaping. We have 200 plus pieces of equipment. It's not only the facilities like the restrooms. Remember, it's park benches, it's trash cans, it's everything else that goes along that you see out there. All that has to be maintained, and it's really massive. So Denny's division really has a lot to do. 760 acres. It's a lot in 71 parks, and I also mentioned 50,000 trees. So we mentioned earlier we have broken the city into a zone maintenance program, and the zone maintenance program is a systematic way for us to maintain our infrastructure. There are 12 maintenance zones, and zone 1, which is kind of like the southeast Huntington, is our next zone next year. These zones are programmed for maintenance every fiscal year for efficiency. So what we do in those zones is we do tree trimming and tree removal. We do concrete replacement, the uplifted sidewalk, the curb and gutter. Huntington's flat. People think of, oh, Huntington, it's flat. You see standing water in the gutter all over the place. As we go through these zones, we fix those. We also have things called tree petition streets, where we have some very older streets where the sidewalks are severely uplifted, and we come through and basically replace the whole street. Rip out all the trees, replace all the sidewalks, replace the entire street. And when we do that, we also fix the sewers and things of that nature. He's also, in those zones, we do crack seal, overlays, and slurries. Not always does the street need to have a new coat of pavement. Sometimes we can just paint it black with slurry and preserve the life of the street. We also do localized pavement repair. You got rutting, one of the biggest things that we deal with a lot is our cul-de-sacs. Trash trucks tear up the cul-de-sacs immensely. So we do a lot of work on the cul-de-sacs when we're in the maintenance zones. We also do utilities maintenance. I mentioned a lot of people have issues with their sewer laterals in the city because of the trees in the parkways, and we have a sewer lateral program. So when we do the maintenance zones, we actually go in and fix those at the time so we don't dig up the street twice. And we also upgrade all the traffic signs and markings. And then now I'm going to turn it over to Jerry Thompson, our General Services Manager.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. The General Services Division oversees facilities, fleet, and refuse services. In addition, we oversee graffiti abatement, weed abatement, and citywide recycling programs. Here's a snapshot of the facilities and fleet infrastructure. One note, we were actually ranked 21st top fleet in North America last year. Facility operations is responsible for carrying out maintenance and repair of city facilities and facility equipment. We also manage the building automation systems, which control our HVAC, lighting, door access systems, to name a few. We also oversee and manage facility improvements and renovation projects, including ADA improvements. We oversee equipment replacement, and we conduct facility condition assessments regularly. In facility operations, we maintain over 1.7 million square feet of facilities, and that's over 300 facilities and physical structures throughout the city. Most people are aware of the community centers and libraries and fire stations and City Hall that we maintain, but then we have a number of park restroom facilities that we maintain, pump stations, lift stations, lifeguard towers. So there's a lot, there's many more facilities that, or structures that most residents aren't aware of that we maintain. We complete over 2,000 service requests a year, and we complete over 1,400 graffiti abatement requests a year. In fleet operations, fleet's responsible for fleet asset management, fleet equipment replacement. We do an annual replacement request. They're responsible for preventive maintenance and regular and emergency repair services, towing services. We do parts management, fuel management, body and collision repair, and warranty management. Part of the fleet inventory are all the marine safety vessels as well. So we have fire equipment, the entire city fleet, fire PD, marine operations, as a part of our inventory. Fleet operations, maintain over 800 pieces of fleet inventory. We often refer to that as rolling stock. We have 16 underground fuel tanks with a total capacity of 120,000 gallons of fuel. 11 fuel islands throughout the city. We complete over 5,000 service tickets annually. We go through 400,000 gallons of fuel and rack up 1.5 million miles driven on our equipment. Refuse operations, we manage the refuse franchise agreement. And through that agreement, we manage the contracted residential and commercial refuse services. We implement and administer refuse programs. Typically, these are mandated by the state. These are required recycling programs, diversion programs, organic waste mandates. And then through our refuse ordinance, we conduct code enforcement. So we watch out for scavenging, carts in view, and so that's general services, and now we have Bob.
Thanks, Jerry. So I oversee the transportation division, and that division has 3 different sections. If you remember from one of the early slides that showed the entire structure, actually the transportation division is one of the smallest with only 12 full-time staff members. However, we actually span a fairly broad area within the city and the different things that we do within our section. Overall, we manage a system that includes 143 traffic signals. In addition to those signals, we also have a lot of flashing beacons and other electronic signs around the city. You've probably seen radar feedback signs where you drive down the street and they tell you how fast you're going, the ones that are mounted on poles in different neighborhoods and streets. Those are also maintained under our group. We have a fairly large number of street lights, parking lot lights, basically any kind of lighting that's on a pole, our group maintains those. And that list is growing significantly right now, and I'll get to that in a little bit, as we acquire a bunch of street lights within the city. We also have markings on all of the streets. Our group maintains those. We have hundreds of miles of overall markings, including, I know Tom noted here, 78 miles of bike lanes, but all of the markings on the roadways that indicate where the lanes are, the arrows, crosswalks, you name it, those are all maintained by my group. We also have all of the signs that are on the street. So there are roughly 50,000 signs throughout the city that we maintain. And that becomes a bit of a challenge for us because we have, they're certainly spread out, but we have a propensity in the city to get stickers on our signs. So just the process of going around and pulling stickers off of our signs and dealing with graffiti is one of our biggest challenges in trying to keep up with the maintenance. So within engineering and management, that's the section that I mostly interact with, even though I oversee all 3. The maintenance divisions essentially run separately. I work mainly out of City Hall, where we have our engineering staff. Our job is to basically manage the pieces of the street system that people interact with. As I mentioned, it really is what controls how people use the streets, whether they're pedestrians, cyclists, motorists, transit, you name it, all the different pieces, and how we accommodate those on the streets. Those are the pieces that we manage. So we do the studies that determine, recommend where traffic signals would go, how the signals are operated, whether there's left turn arrows or not, things like that, where stop signs go, red curb, all of those little pieces of the system and how they work. As you can probably imagine, we have a lot of school districts and a lot of schools in the city, and that generates an awful lot of issues for us. There's a lot of activity that happens around the schools during pickup and drop-off time, and we have a lot of interaction with the different school districts and the public on school-related issues throughout the entire community. We also have a permit parking program that we administer. We are very much involved in the planning and new development within the city and reviewing projects and trying to ensure that they are designed in a way where the access works with the street system, that they're not adding too much traffic to the street system, and that we can accommodate them, or that we provide the improvements that are needed to accommodate that additional traffic. And we do a lot of coordination with other outside agencies, key ones in the city. OCTA, I know, was mentioned earlier as a regional body that deals with regional transportation issues. And you probably know, but just in case you don't, Caltrans operates Pacific Coast Highway and Beach Boulevard in the city, and also the 405 freeway that skirts the northern part of the city. We have a division that does all the maintenance on the traffic signals and the street lights. I already mentioned that earlier. We are in the process of expanding our street light inventory from about 1,000 street lights as of 6 months ago to roughly 12,000 street lights. Probably by the end of August, we will have all of them acquired from Southern California Edison. That's a very long story. I won't get into that too much, but it is a very big effort, and we hope that that is very much a benefit to the city when it's all completed. I already mentioned that we maintain all the lights in parking lots at the different facilities throughout the city. Jerry mentioned 300 facilities. Most of those, or at least a chunk of those, have parking lots and different kinds of markings, and lights, et cetera, in the parking lots. And our third group is the sign and marking maintenance. Again, I mentioned how we have all the markings on the streets, all the markings in parking lots, signs. That's what we maintain. We even do signs within facilities. So, if somebody wants even a nameplate for their desk, that comes through my group, and we have the ability to fabricate those in our sign shop. One other key thing that the public gets to interact with my group is we tend to provide the staff that deals with street closures and things like that for special events within the city. We have a lot of those every year, more than 70 a year. One that happens every week you might be familiar with is the downtown Surf City Nights every Tuesday. My staff is down there every week, closing off the street, setting everything up, coming back later and removing it every single week. We do the marathon, 4th of July parade, all the big events within the city. We have some sort of traffic control and staffing that attend those. And we also have little pennants that you probably see around town on streetlights and things like that. My group also maintains those, and they install them, remove them, etc. And back to Tom for the rest.
All right, so in addition to playing Travis for 30 seconds a day and Denny for 30 seconds a day, this is what I do day in and day out. I manage the engineering divisions. And I'm going to run through the capital improvement program, which is our planning tool. What we do in the development section, our pavement management program, to give you a little insight on how we plan our infrastructure, and talk a little bit about the projects currently under construction within the city. Here's just some statistics I wanted to run through. We have 100 miles of arterial streets. That's like driving from Huntington Beach to Ventura. It's a long distance. Residential streets, that's Huntington Beach to Bishop, all the way up by Mammoth. So 316 miles of residential streets. We have 33 miles of alleys that are mainly concentrated in the downtown area. And we also have 4 million square feet of AC parking lots. The capital improvement program, you see here, we have about 24 million projects in this year. And this is how we plan to maintain, as I mentioned earlier, all those planning documents that I talked about earlier, they all feed the CIP. And what we have as categories is drainage and water quality. We have facilities, neighborhood. Neighborhood is the residential program, concrete curb gutter streets and trees, parks and beaches, our sewer program, our streets and transportation and water. And my division also handles development. You come in for your single family residential, everything from Pacific City going up, right, to everything else going on, Bella Terra, Monogram up there. There's a little bit of development going on in Enger right now. I don't know if anybody's seen just a little, no, it's a lot. Anyways, we do all the development review for the public right-of-way. There's always water services, sewer services, the street needs to be widened, new curb gutter sidewalk, street lights, right? That all comes through us. Beach Enger Corridor specific plans, some of you may have heard about from planning or may have not have. There's special lighting standards in some areas in the city. and we administer most of that. So I did want to touch briefly on the pavement management program. Everyone knows that we don't always pave the worst first in streets. So we use the pavement management program to help guide us to use our money the most wisely. And we do this with our pavement management program. And really, it's a 7-year look ahead. We really kind of massage it every year based upon needs within the city and available budgets. But we do a 7-year look ahead. And again, we don't do the worst first. You know, when you drive Heil and Talbert, they're destroyed, right? They're really bad. But I can put $1 million into one section of Heil, but I can take that same $1 million and do 3 miles of just an overlay. So how do you manage that? How do you manage where you spend the money? And that's a delicate situation for us. So we try and not let the ones that are already just need to be maintained deteriorate, and we deal with those first, and then we kind of let the ones that are really gnarly, we let them deteriorate a little bit further, because then they're going to take a lot of money, and we'll do those big ones in a year. This is just an asphalt pavement life cycle. Again, see where the good is in the yellow up there? There's a little dash line. We try and hit everything with overlays and slurries above that line. Below it is where it gets really, really expensive for us to rehabilitate the streets. So we try and, again, maintain what we have and not let it deteriorate too bad. It's kind of like your house. You don't let your paint go 10 years before you paint it. Then you're or water blasting it off and chipping it off, and it gets more expensive. And then what are the factors that affect the pavement life in our pavement management program? The things we look at as we go through all this, traffic volume and loads. We have weather, rain, extreme heat. We don't have this extreme heat in Palm Springs, but during August and September, you'll see we get rutting in our streets. The pavement gets a little liquid sometimes. Type of pavement that we put down, the age of the pavement, the base material. We're an old watershed. A lot of our roads are on really yucky stuff, and it likes to move around quite a bit. So the unstable base material can affect the length or the surface life of the pavement. In addition, we do a lot of preventive maintenance efforts and available funding in the PMP to try and extend what we have. I'm not going to run through all of these, but if you've been driving in Southeast Huntington at all, or Northeast Huntington, or Northwest Huntington, we've got a ton of RTO or rehab projects going on. Upcoming, we have Heil from Springdale to Edwards. We have Slater, Golden West to Gothard. And we're also going to wrap up Main Street. So we just did Main Street downtown a few months ago. That was quite an effort coordinating with everybody, but we did it after Tuesday night downtown. And there's no good time to shut down Main Street, right? Because it just wants to go 24/7, 365, but we got that done. But there's a little stretch from Delaware to Beach that needs to be done, and we're going to be wrapping that up. And then also, we're drilling 2 new wells right now, well 1 and well 14. We supply our own water in the city, about 75% of our own water, and wells have aged, and we need to redrill wells. We're just finishing up our police lobby project, and we're in the middle of our Zone 10 residential overlay project right now. That's the Northwest Huntington area. It's basically Bolsa Chica, Warner, that whole north section, the harbor area. We're going through that and doing all that tree trimming, sidewalk replacement, and the residential streets. And then that's a brief overview, and then I'm going to turn it over to Brian Ragland, our utilities manager.
Thank you, Tom. As Tom indicated earlier, my division's responsible for the water, sewer, and storm drain systems within the city. And starting with the water infrastructure, we have over 600 miles of water lines in the streets of Huntington Beach. And when you realize that you lay that pipe out, it would go from San Diego to north of San Francisco. We're responsible for maintaining it. If there's a main break, we have to go out and repair it. If a contractor takes a backhoe and goes through that pipe, we're the ones that respond 24/7 to make that repair. Tom indicated that we get 75% of our water from the ground under our feet, and the other 25% comes from the Metropolitan Water District, which imports water into the LA area. So to get the water from our aquifers, we have 8 currently active wells. We'll have 10 wells within the next year. And for the imported water connections, we have 3, 2 of which are on the north side of town, 1 is on the east side of town, to make sure if one of the imported line should fail, we have plenty of backup to get the remaining water that we need should that happen. If we lose all of our imported connections, we can actually rely on our groundwater supply to meet the needs of the city. So we have a pretty nice backup available to us. Reservoirs, there are 4 reservoirs in the city. They can hold up to 55 million gallons of water at any given time. And if we do have an earthquake, we've got plenty of water in those reservoirs to help supply water for firefighting and public needs in the event we need that. We also have 53,000 meter connections, so we go out and we read the meters every month, or in some areas of town we have what are called AMI meters, which actually send out the meter read via radio. The whole city will have these special meters in place in the next 2 years. So our meter readers are being transitioned to other assignments, but having this many meters that we can read ourselves just through a radio system cuts down on the cost of meter reading and the reliability of the meter reads themselves. Public fire hydrants, we have over 5,800. We paint those, inspect them every year to make sure that the flows are acceptable. And we have almost 18,000 control valves in the system to make sure that if there is a main break, we can go out and shut 2 valves down on either side of the break, isolate that pipeline and go in and make the repair, and don't have to put a large area of the city out of water and inconvenience everyone. So we operate these control valves every year to year and a half to make sure that they don't get tight, get rusted, whatever. They have to be able to operate if there's a problem. So we have to go out and do what's called exercising to those valves every year to year and a half. On the storm drain system, we have 114 miles of pipeline, and we run everything from storm drain pipes. We have over 1,100 manholes. We go in and have to maintain those along with the catch basins that are within the town. We have to clean every catch basin once a year, preferably late summer, early winter, to prepare for any of the heavy rains. And when the heavy rains do come, if they get clogged up with debris and other things coming off the street, we will respond, clean those catch basins out to minimize any chance of flooding out people, making sure people can still get access to their homes. Flood control infrastructure includes everything from 96-inch diameter pipes. We put a person in that picture to get a feel for how big it is. Actually, it's about this tall. We take care of about 5 miles of open channels, and it's hard to see in this picture, but there's a car right there. Somehow the person lost control, went into the channels, so we do everything from cleaning the channels with just regular debris to removing vehicles. I'm aware of 3 cars that have gone into our storm drain channels in the last 20, 25 years. Air bladders. Sunset Beach, I'm sure all of you have heard about the flooding that occurs down in Sunset Beach when we had the king tides a few years ago. Whenever we have major tides, we go into Sunset Beach, put these bladders into the pipelines to keep the water that is in the bay or in the harbor area from coming back through the outlet pipes and then up and out into the streets. So we use these large bladders. That one's about 14 feet long. We use those to help minimize the flooding down in the Sunset Beach area. For flood control infrastructure, we've got 15 flood control pump stations in the city. Most people don't realize it, but over 30% of Huntington Beach is below sea level. So if you see this picture right here, this is the Wintersburg Channel, and that's roughly sea level right there. And then way down the slope and over to the side here, that's one of our flood control channels that drains to one of our pump stations right here that pumps the water up and over and into the Wintersburg Channel. So when we had the heavy storms back in January and February, all 5 of our pumps in the pump station were very active, but was able to handle all the flow that we have. So we're responsible for maintaining these 15 pump stations or flood control stations And each of these different colors represents an area that has its own independent flood control station. On the water production side, we use about 10 billion gallons of water a year. If you can imagine a football field filled with water that goes up over 5 miles, that's how much water we use in the city every year. That's what where we utilize our wells and our imported water connections to get that water. Water quality, part of the tour today will be to go to the water quality lab, so we hear about the types of tests that we run, how many tests each year. Over 28,000 types of tests are run each year, everything from the chlorine in your water to hardness, other constituents in the water, to make sure that we meet all of the state and federal water quality requirements. On the sewer side, we have over 52,000 sewer laterals. Tom talked about the sewer lateral program. If someone gets street tree roots into the sewer laterals, we'll go out and take a look at the portion of the lateral that's within the public right-of-way and repair it if we have to. We also have the capability where we can actually put a closed-circuit TV down into the sewer line to find out if there's roots in the line, if there's broken pieces of pipe, things of that nature, to make sure that the infrastructure is being properly maintained. Over 7,000 manholes and 360 miles of pipe. In addition to those, my division is also responsible for the water conservation or the water use efficiency activities of the city. So during the recent 5-year drought, they were the ones that were doing the public outreach, taking all the phone calls about people complaining about others overusing the water, letting water waste go down the street. We also have the city warehouse, about $1 million worth of inventory there. It has everything from fire hydrants, pipes, janitorial supplies, things of that nature that we take care of. With all of our infrastructure, with our 27 sewer pump stations, the 15 storm drain stations, we can monitor what's going on at those facilities 24/7. If there's a problem with them, the computer system will recognize that and can actually call our on-call staff, and they can pull out a computer or laptop, log into the system and find out what the problem is, decide if they need to respond to fix something, or if it's something that can wait a day or two, if it's a weekend or something like that. But we monitor all of our systems to make sure that we don't have any problems. Geographic information system is a large mapping system which generated all of the maps and everything that you see around you. That's part of our tour tonight, so I won't go into detail about that. And West Orange County Water Board is a agency. It's a joint powers authority between Huntington Beach, Westminster, Garden Grove, and Seal Beach that owns and operates 2 of the import water pipelines that brings water from the Metropolitan Water District main transmission mains into those 4 cities.